you guys wanted to trade your Pokemon using Wi-Fi for the Game Boy Advance games like Pokemon Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald, you totally can now. As shown here, my Miyoo Mini Plus is connected to my laptop via Wi-Fi, and you can do whatever the game allows you to do, like battling or trading Pokemon. Any device with Wi-Fi running RetroArch 1.17 or higher, and the latest gpSP core can do this. This guide will focus primarily on the Miyoo Mini Plus, but you can apply most of this information to whatever handheld you want to use. I do want to note here that the original Miyoo Mini can't take advantage of this because it doesn't have Wi-Fi available. Okay, so in order to do this, we will have to install a custom operating system called Koriki. This might be a little bit inconvenient, but as far as I know, this is the only custom operating system with RetroArch updated to 1.18 and has the latest gpSP core. A lot of people are using Onion, like myself included, and I have good news. If you look at their GitHub page and look at their milestones for version 4.4, you can see that they are indeed updating RetroArch to 1.18 and will bring over that latest gpSP core. So if you want to keep Onion, I would highly recommend just waiting, and then sooner or later version 4.4 will drop, and then you'll have access to all these features. But if you want to do it for now, I would recommend checking out Koriki. As far as I know, MinUI, MyFinUI, Allium, all these other operating systems don't have the latest version of RetroArch or the gpSP core, so I think this is the only option as far as I know. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Alright, we're going to download the full version because we'll be doing a fresh install. Let's say you already have Koriki and you want to update. All you have to do is download this update file and then copy it over to the root of your microSD card without extracting, and then when you turn the console on, it should update. I already went ahead and downloaded this file. I would recommend using 7-zip to extract the contents. Windows already has a built-in extractor and you can use that if you want, but I find 7-zip just more convenient. And then in order to format the microSD card to FAT32, we'll be using guiformat. If you want to download it, you can go to this website and then click on the picture and it'll download the file for you. Now, as always, I'll have all these links provided in the descriptions and comments below, as well as timestamps so you can skip around to whatever part you want to. We have Koriki here. We're going to right click on it and go to 7-zip and extract files. Okay, now I already have my microSD plugged into my computer. I'm using my Samsung microSD to USB adapter. You can use whichever adapter you have available. Now, before we get to formatting, I would like to make one recommendation. While I use Koriki for a little bit and it's a fine operating system, I really like Onion OS, and I really don't want to go through the hassle of backing up my ROMs, my save states, and my save files, as well as any associated images, and hope it carries over to Koriki just fine. Now, it all depends on personal preference, but I know a lot of you out there probably like MinUI, Allium, and whatever custom operating system / firmware you're using, and really don't want to go through the hassle of having to back everything up and then not have that environment. Now, I know some of you don't have money in the budget to buy a new microSD card, and in that case, if you have an extra stock microSD card from a system that you're not using, I would recommend using that. Now, that memory card is highly unreliable, but if all we're doing is installing Koriki and copying over a few Pokemon ROMs, then the likelihood of something getting corrupted is going to be a little bit less since we're not occupying all of the available memory. Would I trust that card? Definitely not, and I would make backups of the save files if you're going to go that route. Now, if you do have a little bit of money in the budget, but you don't want to break the bank, I would recommend buying the On brand of microSD cards available at Walmart. You can buy two 32GB microSD cards for roughly $10. You can get a pack of two 64GB microSD cards for roughly $12. Now, the reliability of these cards are definitely a little bit lower than other brands, but if all we're doing is trying to get some Pokemon games to have wireless transfers, I think it's okay to take the risk and use these cards. Now that's been said, let's go to formatting our cards. Now we're going to click on GUI format. Allow it to make changes. So now we have our micro SD card selected. It's a 62GB card. Make sure you select the right drive, and also make sure that you back up anything you want on that micro SD card. Formatting will erase everything and the data will be gone. Technically, it's still there, but it'll be very hard to recover, so just think of it as being gone forever. I'm going to label my volume as Koriki. You can change this if you want, but you can leave it as default. You can kind of optimize this to make sure it matches the file sizes that you're using or writing to on average. It used to be the case this matter, but you don't have to worry about this, so you can just leave it. You can leave quick format on, and then we're going to start it. Okay, and that's it. Now our micro SD card is formatted to FAT32. If this doesn't work, it's a little bit finicky. I would recommend closing the program, removing your micro SD card, plugging it back in, and then starting the program again. Okay, now that we have that formatted, we're going to go open up our micro SD card. And then we're going to go into the contents of the Koriki folder. And then we're simply going to hit Ctrl A to select everything. And then we're going to just drag it over. You can also do Ctrl C, Ctrl V to copy and paste. Okay, now that's done. We're going to exit out of these windows. And remember to safely eject your micro SD card, and we'll be plugging this into our handheld. Sometimes you have to eject it twice. Silly Windows. Alright, now we're going to put the micro SD card back into our device. And just a note, the side with the image will be facing away from you or down as you insert the card. Now, I've seen most people do this successfully, but every once in a while, you see someone on the subreddits that inserts the micro SD card upside down. And, and they may break the port there. But anyways, we're going to turn it on. Okay, let's say booting up for the first time. Please wait until the console turns off. So we're just going to leave it like this. This should take only a few minutes at most. It won't take too long. Okay, that was it. Okay, so for this next step, we'll be copying over the ROM files and the save files to our newly created Koriki microSD card. As you can see here, this is the microSD card for my Onion install. And if you're using Onion, it's going to be located in ROMs and then GBA, and that's where your Pokemon ROMs will be. I'm using the tiny best that go, so that's why all the files look like this. And then if you want to copy over your saves, it's going to be in Saves, Current Profile, Saves, and then MGBA, because the default emulator for Game Boy Advance is going to be MGBA, and this is where all your save files will be. Now, I would highly recommend making an in-game save. I'm not copying over the save states, because those are a little bit finicky. Even in the same emulator, if you're using different versions, you might have a little bit of an issue getting to work properly. So save in-game first, and then copy over the .srm file. Now, some emulators will have a .sav or .save extension. Those are cross-compatible with these. They're the same format. Just rename the extension to SRM and you'll be fine. Now, if you don't see the extensions for your files, you're going to go in the View tab, and then you're going to check this box, File Name Extensions, if you have Windows 10. If you have an older version, you may have to go into Folder Options. You're going to go into View, and it's going to be an option here as well. Hide extensions for known file types, uncheck that, hit Apply, and you should be good to go. I think by default, you always want file extensions shown. Alright, so once we have our files and save states, we're going to copy it in. So for the directory structure for Koriki, it's going to be ROMs, GBA, and you're just going to drag your Pokemon games there. For our saves, we're going to go back to root, and then we're going to go into saves, RA saves, and then we're going to create a folder called gpSP. The GP is going to be lowercase, and the SP is going to be uppercase. Okay, and I'm going to drag our save file over. Alright, we're pretty much done with that, so we're going to go eject our microSD card again. And then we're going to go back to our handheld. Alright, so Koriki is clearly very different from Onion OS, so I'm going to try my best to walk you through all the steps I think you need to do to get to transferring Pokemon wirelessly. Before that, I'll recommend making some changes. I already did it because this is my second time recording this. You're going to hit start to bring up the system settings. We're going to go into system, and then I'll recommend lowering the volume. You can do that with the volume rocker. I would lower the brightness to just a little bit, and then I would turn menu music off. You can take your time to customize this if you want. Alright, after that we're going to go into the apps and games folder, into apps, and then we're going to go into Wi-Fi to turn the Wi-Fi on. Now, just to show you, this is a different view, so if you see this view, which I think is less convenient, just press R1 and you'll switch to the list view. So pressing R1 will change views. Now we're going to scan for access points, and then we're going to connect to our home Wi-Fi network. You can pick your home network, and then type in the password, and then you'll connect. So as you can see here, our IP address for the Wi-Fi network, mine is 192.168.0.101. You're going to want to write that down somewhere because it will connect to the handheld using that IP address. Okay, now if you turn the device off and turn it back on, you'll have to manually come back here to connect to the network. So let's say you want to have Wi-Fi on all the time. If you want that option, press start to go into the system menu again. Go to Autowifi and turn that on. Now I just want to give a little bit of a warning here. With Wi-Fi on, my battery drained very quickly. A lot more than it would with Wi-Fi off. So if battery life is important to you, I would recommend turning Autowifi off. If you just want Wi-Fi on all the time because you can't be bothered, then you can turn it on. Okay, now we're going to back out to the main menu. We're going to go into handhelds, Game Boy Advance, and then before we start, the gpSP Plus core should be on by default, but just to make sure, we're going to hit select on the game. And as we can see here under emulator, it's gpSP Plus Lib Retro. That's the core we want. If you have the regular gpSP Lib Retro core, it may not have the Wi-Fi adapter built into it, so just make sure for this version of Koriki that that's the core right there. Alright, we're going to press A on the game to start it. Now for this, we're going to hit menu and X at the same time to bring up the RetroArch menu. If you use Onion OS, it used to be menu and select. For Koriki, it's menu and X. We're going to scroll down to core options. And then for link cable connectivity, we want to make sure that GBA wireless adapter is selected because that is how we will connect to other devices using the Wi-Fi network. And once that's done, we're going to hit B to back out, and we're going to hit B to back out one more time. Now, if you forgot your IP address, you can go into information, and then network information, and under interface WLAN 0, we'll see our IP address. So once again, mine is 192.168.0.101. Yours may be a little bit different. This IP address is just for your LAN. No one can access your device using that IP address unless they're like a super hacker, man. Okay, now we're going to back out again, and then we see this menu. We're going to go into Netplay. This is very important. If you don't do this, it won't work. And then we're going to hit host. Now before we start, I would make some recommendations. You can turn off publicly announced Netplay. that will show your lobby in the list. And then you can see the server password is 4444 by default. You can change that if you want, but just make sure you remember it. I'm going to leave everything as default. And then as you can see here, it says you have joined as player 1 waiting for a client. For this handheld, we're pretty much done. Now, once you start the game, make your way to the nearest Poke Center, and then go upstairs to this room, and this is where you can do the wireless stuff. You can go into the middle lady to go into the Pokemon Wireless Club Union room. Make sure you save. Okay, and then all you have to do is set this device aside. So once we're in this room, we're going to leave this handheld as is, and we're going to go to our other handheld. I don't have one, so I'm going to use my laptop to walk you guys through how to join once you have a host set up. So I'm on my PC now, and I'll walk you through it. It's going to be just a tad different in that for the PC, you want to go to Netplay first before you load the game. And then we're going to connect to a Netplay host. And if you remember, my IP address for the Miyoo Mini Plus was 192.168.0.101. We're going to hit enter. If you don't connect to Netplay before loading the game, it will crash on the PC for some reason. This is not the case on the Miyoo Mini Plus. And now we're going to load our ROM. This is already the latest version of RetroArch with the latest gpSP core. Now, as you can see here, we have to enter the password, and if you remember, it was 4444 by default. Hit enter. And we can see we're connected to Koriki, and we're player 2. So I'd like to note here, if you're using another handheld or if you're using your PC, you want the RetroArch options to be the same. So for the core options, you want the GBA link connectivity to be the GBA wireless adapter. Make sure it's the same across any device you want to use with this. And then as we can see here, that is from my Miyoo Mini Plus. And then you can do whatever you want. You want to go to the third room to do the trades. You can do battling here. Alright, so I'll walk you guys through how to connect to the host Miyoo using another Miyoo Mini Plus. I only have one, which is why I use the laptop, but I'll walk you guys through in case people were getting confused with the laptop instructions. So you're going to hold menu and X to bring up the RetroArch menu. And then on this handheld, you're also going to go into the core options and then make sure that link cable connectivity is set to GBA wireless adapter. Now make sure you connect it to the Wi-Fi network before doing this, obviously. I'm going to back out. I'm going to go into the Netplay menu and then go to connect to Netplay host and then type in the IP address of the handheld that you want to connect to. Mine was 192.168.0.101 and I hit the enter key right there. And I'll bring up the password screen and enter the password again, 4444, and then hit enter, and then you should connect. Load the game, go to the Poke Center, and then go into the room, and then you can do trades or whatever you want. Alright, one last thing. Let's say you want to spruce up your operating system with images for your games. It's going to be in the same directory, so we're going to go into ROMs. We're going to go into GBA, and then we're going to go into images. And then this is where you can copy the images from the TinyBest.go into this directory, and then you'll see it show up in the operating system. Alright, that's going to be it, but before we end, I'll walk you guys through some hotkeys I thought were handy. So if you hold menu and then press X, it will enable the RetroArch menu. If you hold menu and press B, it will enable fast forward. You can press menu and B to turn it off again. Now, if you hold R2, it will enable fast forward as long as you're holding R2. If you press menu and R1, it will save the state. If you press menu and L1, it will load the save state. If you hold menu and then press R2, it will advance the save slots by 1. If you hold menu and press L2, it will go back 1. And then menu and start will exit the game. Now for some reason, if it's not exiting, you can hold menu and L2, R2, start and select to force close RetroArch. For other controls, if you hold menu and then press the up or down button, it'll increase or decrease the brightness. You can also use the volume plus and minus keys. Before we end, I would like to give credit to the person responsible for this, the developer named David Gillenfandos. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but they're the maintainer of the gpSP emulator, as well as the coder who made this GBA wireless adapter feature. I would highly recommend checking out the blog because it goes into detail on how they came up with this. It gives credit to a lot of other people who are incredibly smart and talented as well. But yeah, thanks dude. Thanks for making this because it's pretty neat. Alright, that's gonna be it. Thank you so much for dropping by and watching, and I hope this guide was handy. I know it's a little bit long, but I have to balance between giving enough information so that everyone, including total newbies, can follow the guide, as well as keeping it short enough where people already notice stuff and kind of gloss over that. Now, sometimes I have to include the information and there's no other way than to include timestamps so that you can skip to the section that you want, and hopefully that's good enough for you guys. As always, thank you so much for dropping by and watching. I can't thank you guys enough. If you need any help or clarification with something, please feel free to leave a comment. I read every comment, and if it elicits a response, I try my best to respond as quick as I can before I keep rambling. As always, hope you guys are staying safe and seeing out there, and catch you guys next time.